Yeah, it is.
Okay, thank you
Sani,
very much.
just to update, I have started the recording as well, yeah?
Okay, so we can start, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, thank you everyone actually joining this virtual GupSub session. Actually, as Vinay is told, is actually a very good connective session where we can actually connect and we can discuss our related things. So thank you very much, and thank you very much to allow me to actually give a session. So our topic today is designing Salesforce REST API. So REST API is actually not a small topic; it's a very big. So before starting with that, let me tell you what I am. Who am I? I'm Dhanigral Sani. I'm a Salesforce architect in Conjoint Business Solution. It's based in Noida, basically. I have a blog also, salesforcecodex.com. So if you want, actually, you can any help, you want any kind of a query, we have built one instant chatbot as well. So you can give your query, your questions there, and we will respond you. You can also connect me on Dhanik Sani, is my Twitter handle. So let's start it with the session. So it's a designing Salesforce REST API. So REST API is not a small topic, it's very big. So in this session, I will going to give basics of REST API, how we create a REST API, what is it, and what are the methods basically in this REST API. So let's start with the agenda first. So in this session, basically, we will see what is a REST API, what are the principles of creating a REST API, how many methods we have available in when we create Apex REST API, what are the benefits of using Apex REST API over the other API which we have right now, like so we have streaming API and other API as well. And then we see a demo, how we can create our REST API. And at last, we see what are the best practice we should follow to create a Apex REST API. So let's start with the session. What is REST API? So REST API is abbreviation for the representational state transfer. I will tell you what is representational state transfer in the next slide. For that time, REST API or representational state transfer is a software architecture style. Is an architecture style where you can define set of constraints, set of norms, set of principle, which able to help you to create a web API. So it's nothing, it's just a standards to create a web API. Okay, so what is web API now? It helps you create a web API, set up standard is there to create a web API. So what is web API? Web API or API, we normally say application programming interface. So it help you or API basically help you to create two systems. Two system could be anything, maybe the client to server or server to server. If you see this example in the screen, we have a two system. One is an ATM and another is a server. So when we withdraw any amount from our ATM, we do a lot of operations before withdrawing the
वैक्यूम तो जिस दिन कोरोना आया उसी दिन बन गई थी सबके पास एक मतलब इंडिया में होता है
guys.
हमारी है 10 और डॉक्टर है 10,000.
Guys, can you mute yourself? Thank you very much. So when we withdraw amount, we do a lot of operation before withdrawing the amount from your bank account. What are the first you input your card and then you give your PIN. Based on PIN and the card detail, server validate the data. So how it's connect? So connection between two systems is done using API. So without API, your ATM system will not able to connect with the banking system. Okay, it's not only that only client or the only device is connecting to the server. Sometimes server to server communication is also happening. So what is the scenario? What is the use case there? The same ATM machine, actually, we can give a debit card PIN request. So whenever our ATM card is going to expire, we request them, okay, I want a new debit card. So I will give that request from ATM machine, some IVR call, or maybe from online banking system. So that request goes to your banking system. Then banking system process your request and gives a request to the server, which is print server. And print server basically gives printing, and after the print is dispatched to the customer. So API is helping you connecting clients to server or server to server. Okay. 1 second. Okay, so we understand API is helping you to connect two systems. Now, what is REST API interaction? How the REST API interaction done from client to server? For connecting any server using a REST API, you need only REST endpoint. Only API is basically primarily required for connecting any server. So in endpoint URL, what are the things are there? First, it will be endpoint URL or your host name or your domain name. Then you put your API information, and then you put the parameter information. Like here, example. 1 second. So in this screen, you can see I have used my Salesforce org and service endpoint URL. After that, I have put v1/product. So v1/product is basically my product or entity API basically name. V1 is the versioning. I will tell you why V1 I have put. I will tell you in the later slide. This comes in the best practices that you should follow the versioning concept in your API. And then I have put the name is equal to Sony. Basically, it's a parameter. Okay, so it's basically saying that to get all the product detail whose name is equal to Sony. So this request comes from the mobile device and it goes to the server. Okay. So in server basically gives a result. The data, it gets the data from your database. Probably like in our force.com database, it gets the data. In normally force.com database data is stored in you can say tabular format, but client is not required in a tabular format. They need in a different format, probably in a JSON, probably in the XML. Sometimes we need in images as well. Okay, so based on the client requirement, whatever they have requested, you have to give data in their format. So you are actually presenting data in a different format. So that is a representation, which is the acronym REST, representational of state transfer. So you are representing data which is available in force.com to a different format, which is JSON or XML. So you are transferring, data is transformed from tabular to JSON. That is the representational state transfer, which is for the REST API. Okay. So we understand what is the REST API, okay, and what are the main point is REST point, endpoint, or REST point. URL is the most important point for the REST API integration. So what are the principle or how we can connect basically REST API? These are 5 important principles for creating a REST API. Client server. What is client server? Basically, whenever we create a REST API, client and server should be separate application. They should not be dependent on each other. And when we client need connection to the server, they need only the endpoint URL and only the authentication key. Other than that, those 2 details, client should not be having any other detail about the server. Okay, stateless basically, REST API mostly work on our HTTP protocol. By default, HTTP protocol is stateless. They are actually, the server will not store any of your previous request data. So whatever request you are processing, you have to give all the basic information to fetch data for the server. Otherwise, it will not give a data. Okay. So like if you want to get the product information, so you have to give the which product information data you want. And that then only server will be able to answer with the proper data. Cacheable, we can store the data or we can store the data in cache. Why it is required? So it is required to make your REST API high performing. High performing, like take example of some of the e-commerce sites. Product detail are actually fetched by all the user. A same product is fetched. So if you are querying data for each request, you are going database and you are fetching data. So it's redundant data actually is you are querying. So your application will be slow in that case. So better you can cache the data of the product, and whenever the next request will come with the same user or other user, you can give the response with the cache data. Okay, cacheable, that is required. Next is the uniform resource identifier. So basically, it's saying that whatever the endpoint we have created, we should not change it. We should fix that endpoint URL. Otherwise, what will happen? First time the user has come and they have used your endpoint, and later on you have changed the endpoint. They will not able to track your URL. They will not able to find you. Where are you? So your URI, your URL should not change. Next is a layered system. In REST API, you can actually create a layering of your system. You can create a layered application. What is that? So layering of application, basically you can create API in one of the Salesforce org, and you can store data in other Salesforce org, and you can use authentication in third Salesforce org. So different layering you can create for your application. So I have experienced one of the our project, our client was using MuleSoft, and for authentication they were using Salesforce. So there's two system or two layers are available where MuleSoft is giving a response, but before the response is given, authentication is done through the Salesforce. So here's an example of e-commerce website, which basically you can see client like Amazon.com, Flipkart.com, they actually follow these norms. So Web API is storing all the, you can say partner detail, you can customer detail, user detail. They all have data about those is stored in a Web API, or they can hold those details. Client application, maybe the mobile app of the Amazon or mobile of web application of Amazon, they only have to fetch the data from those API, and they represent that data to the user. They are not doing anything. Data representation is done through the client, but all the other person is done through the web API. So that is a client server concept. Stateless, again, without like if you want okay, when you logged in your system and you want your detailed data, then basically you have to pass your detail, user detail, to get all the data, all the order related to you from the server. So every time your user information will be shared with your request. Cacheable, I told example that in Amazon we have 1,000 or lakhs of products. So if all the products will be fetched every time when you request or the user will request, it will degrade the performance of the application. So they cache that product information in some of the location, or it is called caching. So we can leverage that application. Similarly, we have uniform resource identifier. Basically, Amazon.com. Everyone know that Amazon.com. They are not changing this URL. So that's why every user is coming back on the same URL. If they change the URL, of course, second time they will not understand where that Amazon.com gone. So that's why it's always required that you fix your uniform resource identifier. And layering, of course, we know in Amazon.com is not, there's a lot of layering built to process your order. First, you go the layering of like a REST authentication layer is there, storage location is there, delivery location will be there. So different layering is done for that application. Okay, so these are the basic principles when you create a REST API we have to follow. So what are the methods of a REST API? What are the operations we can perform using a REST API? So basically, these are the 5 more important basically operations we can perform using REST API. This is GET. GET is used by default basically for retrieving records, getting a record from the Salesforce database. Okay, and for annotation we have to use HTTP GET. If you are not putting HTTP GET annotation on your method, it will not treat it as a GET method of the service. It will not able to find that method. So similarly, post is used for creating a new record, and for that you have to annotate to using HTTP post on the method. Put operation basically used when basically you are not sure that whatever the object is coming is only for the insert or the is for update. So when you are not sure about that operation, you can use put method. So if the data will be exist, it will update that record. If data is not exist, so it will create a new record. So in that case, you should use @ put on your method name. Delete, of course, is for using or deleting your records in your system. Patch is a specific or special method. Basically, is used when you need to update specific field in your record. In that case, only you need patch. Put, there is a difference in patch and put. In put, actually, we are giving a complete detail and updating the data, but in patch, we are giving a specific field and it will update the data. And for that annotation, we have to use HTTP patch. REST resource is another annotation is required to class to make it accessible as a REST API. So if this REST resource annotation is not added on your class, that class will be not visible as a service on REST Explorer. So I will show in the demo. What is the benefit of if we are using Apex REST API? So first, it is lightweight. Why is lightweight? Because it normally people are using JSON, and JSON is not holding other than your required information. It may be using your patient ID, patient name. Other than that patient ID or patient name, we are not putting other information like a header information or other information about the security. Okay, so it's very lightweight, smaller and consume less bandwidth. So REST API actually developed in the mindset when we are actually using our application on less bandwidth devices like our mobile application, tab application. So it's basically designed for those devices. So it will work on the less bandwidth devices. High performing, if we use caching in our system, your API will be high performing. They will be super fast to respond with your data. Efficient and fast. Why it is efficient? Because normally if you go with the SOAP API, for every request, they actually serializing and deserializing on the caller and the server. So that concept is not required in a REST API. This is completely plain text format is we are sending. So it's very efficient and very fast. Scalable. So whatever REST API will work for the smaller client, it will also work for the enterprise application. There's no change actually. So it will behave the same way in a smaller application or the enterprise application. So let's see how we can create a REST API and using our Apex. So can someone help me? This screen is visible to you? Developer console?
Yes, Dhanik.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So what I have done, I have written one class. Anyone is saying something? Okay, no problem. No. So if you can see that this is a product API class we have mentioned, okay, and there is one method get. So there's no REST resource. I have basically commented that line. So let's see that this class is actually showing as a REST resource in our Workbench. Workbench is another client actually. Okay, so we can check all the services or the API of our org in this Workbench. So let me see this services data. So by default, every custom REST API you are creating, it will be started with the services, then Apex REST. After that, this Apex REST, you will use your API endpoint. Okay. So right now, our class name is product API. So let's start with this. It's doing or not. So I was saying service not found with this. So why it's not found? We have not added REST resource. REST resource is required that whatever class you want to make it as API, you have to put the REST resource on that class. This annotation is required. Let me save it. Now, so when we use REST resource, we have to put replace public as a global. Okay, it's a minimum requirement for that. Why? So why is required? Sometimes you create an application and as a Apex product, and when you move this, so your application will be installed in other different org, and if you are not putting as a global, they will not able to access your classes. On it because public will be only accessible in the same namespace, right? So that's why normally we use global. Let's see that now we have marked that class as a REST resource, and the mapping is done that it will be available on v1/product. This is the mapping we have put. So let's put v1 dot. You can see that at least we are not getting error, service not found, that kind of error. What we are saying, method not allowed. So what operation we have performed? We have performed a get operation on this URL. So right now, we have not added any annotation on get method. That's why it's giving error that HTTP method get not allowed here, method not allowed. So let me put it HTTP get annotation here. Now I have added it. Okay. Now you can see all the records which is available in product. This product entity. It's showing now. These are the 4 elements. So using this HTTP GET, we are able to get all the data. Now the question: I want to get a specific product ID data. How we will do this? Can we create a new class, new method with a different parameter? But as soon as you put HTTP GET here, it will give no. We cannot. Actually, HTTP GET will not support method with a parameter. So what we have to do? We have to use the same GET method, and we have to extract the ID from the URL. As I told every time that for accessing any endpoint, endpoint URL is the most required, and we can pass the parameter in the endpoint URL. So we can pass the ID in the parameter or URL, and we can extract that. So let me show how we can do. Example here. So this is example. What I have done, I have get whatever the URI is there. Okay, let me first tell you how this will be accessed. Okay, I want to extract the data or the product information of this specific ID. So you can see that URL is containing the information about your product ID. So what I have to do, I want to extract this ID. So what I have to do, whatever data is after this slash, I want to get all the data. Okay. So for what I have done, simply I have get the last index of this value, and after that, whatever is there, just get the data. So it will give you the ID of that value, and it can extract the specific product information. So let's show if data or not. So it's not showing, probably that product information is not right.
Product API name instead of product.
What?
Product API name. V1 slash name is the
product. Product. It's product only. It's product only. Okay. It's not different. It's the same. Okay, it looks like the data is not there. Let me see the data with the same IDs available in my org node.
The class name says product API, right? But in the URL we are passing the product, right? Is it that I mean?
No. That's why we are putting here. I want to get the detail of this product. Okay. product information. This one.
Tarak Mehta
So now you're able to get the specific product information. Looks like that product is deleted. So okay. So now if I got the product specific to this product ID, I am able to get this one. Let me see what will happen if I want that if they are not putting ID, then it should get all the data. Okay. 1 second. Okay. So when we put the ID, it will give a specific ID information, and when we are not putting ID, it will give all the data for the product. So we have to change our code in that context. Okay. So what we have to do? So if we are getting ID, I'm doing, if we are getting product ID, then go with the condition. If I am not getting ID, then simply get all the data from that object. So let's see, it's returning all the data or not. So we are able to get it. Next, let me show that specific ID. Data is not visible. It's the same one. It's like this one. So with the ID also it's returning, and without ID it's returning all the data or the product object. Okay. Now what happened? Let's I want to put another, okay, get all the product information with the product ID and specific vendor, specific company. Okay. So I want to put that condition as well. So you can give the another parameter on the URL itself using slash and other detail. Plus you can get using there is another method in our request context class. We are using REST context. REST context basically it's giving all the contextual information about your current request. Whatever current request you got from client, it has all the information. It has the whatever request body they have sent, whatever the parameter they have sent, all the information is kept in this REST context. So we have to extract that information from this class. So if I want to pass parameter, because using slash, I don't think it's a good idea to get the data. So instead of data, and most probably the client will not be happy. Okay, I want to put like 3 or 4 where clauses. We have to put different slashes or multiple slashes, and we don't know in which position which information is added. So instead of doing this, we can use name parameter also in that URL. So how that done? I want to use. Match for this Reliance data, product ID is this, and for vendor is equal to this. So what I have done, we have added in the URL. We have added a parameter name, product ID, and at last vendor ID. So how we can get this information? I told you there is a class REST context. In this REST context itself, we can extract the parameter using param parameters. Params, product ID is the parameter we can ask to enter. Vendor ID is another parameter. So we can extract direct value using these parameter values, and we can extract and we can put in our condition. So by the way, if there are multiple conditions available or multiple parameters available, we can simply get and we can put whatever condition we want to for our logic. Okay. So this is a actual way to get multiple parameter with name. So in that case, client will be not be like they have said, okay, it's not good. So it will be good practice. Okay, they can give multiple parameter with the name. Okay, if they want to skip also, they can skip the parameter as well. So that optional parameter will also work. So we are okay now. So let's do get is done. let's do the post operation. We want to create a new product. So how we will do? We have not added any operation related to, sorry, method related to the creation of the new record. This, I want to for creating putting data or the patch information, we have to put the data or the request data in as a body. Why? Because normally when we pass the data in a parameter as a URL endpoint parameter, it's visible to the user. So they can actually sniff your data actually. So that's why we normally, when we do creation, updation or of data, we normally put as a body of the request. Okay. So let's say what is saying when we have used post method to create a new product is giving method is not allowed. So basically it looks like our method is not created. Create a new method. Okay. So we have created one method. Okay. What we have done, we have created a method with the request response type. So why we required request response, why we should create a response with the proper class. Reason is, there's a caller. You have created one post method without any response. So whenever caller will do operation, you are not responding anything. So whatever operation they want to perform after your call, after your successful call, they will not able to do this. Even they don't know actually your operation you have done properly or not. Okay, so this is a problem. So we should always return proper data to your caller. Maybe if there, even the error you are passing, you should give a proper response with error. So let's example what we have done. This, okay, simply without doing, I'm just giving a action on this post method. What error I'm getting? So you can see I have not added any data JSON request data, but I am getting a proper response. Okay, 400 looks like product name you have not entered in the system. Okay, so your post operation, your put operation, or your patch operation, every API request should validate whatever request is coming. You should not do any operation blindly. Okay, so whatever request body we have to pass, we will get the data basically from that. Okay, as a request data, as a JSON data which they are passing in a request body, first we will get that body, and then we are serializing that basically that JSON into an object. So whatever data they have passed, that is a values is available in product DTO. What is product DTO? I have created a simple class which the properties, whatever properties we want as a caller to give. So they have to, the caller has to give product name, unit price, discount, vendor name, or the product ID. The information they have to pass to create a product in our system. Okay, so whatever JSON they are they have given, I have passed that in a normal object. After the object passing is done, I am validating first that okay, product name is given or not, whatever unit price is given is that is valid or not, or vendor which you are sharing or which you are giving is valid vendor or not. You are just randomly you are entering that vendor detail. So every information is passed, then only you should insert in your system. So let's see. 1 second. So let's say this is a valid request. I want to create one product with 68 Sony TV, 68 inch. Vendor name is Sony, and unit price is 88,000. So let me change another thing. Let's see that is vendor name is wrong. Is giving a validation error or not. So yes, you are getting that invalid, please provide valid vendor. So we should always validate our request data. So now every data is confirmed. Let me create the data is created or not. So yes, we able to create a new data in our system. So what you can see that we are passing valid status code and the message. Status code is very much important to the caller. Based on that status code, they will respond, they will do other operation. So you should always give a proper response to your caller. Whether it's error also should have with valid information, like 400 error you can provide. Okay, if your host is down, you can provide 500 error to the caller. So that is very much required. Okay. Hello.
Sir, you were not, after the put things, you didn't. You were not audible.
Oh shit. I by default automatically is getting unmute actually. Mute. I don't know why. So when I have told you that able to insert that, that's till that time you're okay, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you will
So from
on mute for like a minute. That's it.
Okay, so where actually we should let me give you a summary for this post. So basically for any information about the post, put or patch, for every request, we should validate the data first. If the data, whatever the data they are giving, if not valid, we should give a proper response. If we are not giving a proper response, caller will not be able to identify what will happen with their request. So it's very much required. Okay. So when we create a new request, and if request is successful, we are getting that, okay, status code is 200 and the message, okay, product is created. Similarly, you can give a error request like a 400, 300 or 500 kind of error with your based on your logic. Okay. So next we have put. Put is just used for the, you can say, for updation or the insertion. When you are not sure that data which we are inserting is already in system or not. So in that case, we should go with the put operation. So first we should check that, okay, data is in our system or not. If it's not, then create it. If it's there, then update it. So what we have to, let's me try put what we are getting.
Sir, can you please come? Sorry to interrupt. Can you please explain what is the difference between post and put, and when to use what?
So that's why I'm telling you. So for post and put, actually, post is when you are sure that for whatever request we are giving, it's for the insertion only, for creation only. Every time when you give a post request, it will go and it will create a product, or it will go and create whatever you want that. But in case of put is for multi-purpose. It's for the insertion also and for the updation also. So when the request will come, it will first search it. Okay, search it. Okay, the data which they are sending, it's already available in the system or not. If it's available, so it will update that data. If it is not available, then it will create that data.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see how right now. Hello.
Yeah, so I do have a question, Dhanik. Suppose I do have two product name with a similar name, right? So I do have a product name called Sony TV 68 inch, and I have multiple product name. So how do this particular request will identify that which record I need to update with the put operation?
So sure. So in that case, you will not go only for the product name. So you should go with the whatever the condition you have. Let's not only the product name, you will also go with the vendor name. Or if vendor name is also matching, then you will go with the other identity criteria. Okay.
There's a concept called external ID or product ID, which you can use to uniquely identify a product, that you can use as one of the parameters.
External ID, yes. That will come when you are migrating data from other system, right?
So, but sir, in
but
case of what you are trying to update the data, so what exactly the question? I think they're asking.
your system, their product name could be a duplicate. So I will add an additional logic to distinguish that, okay, these will be unique.
Okay.
So in that case, product name plus product code you can identify. You can use other identifier to distinguish that, okay, it's unique now.
So in that case, in case of post, can I not do that? Because like if in case of post also, I can check for the combination in my system, whether it exists or not, and I can return back the same data, right? With the error
Yeah,
code or
we can
vice
do,
versa.
but actually you are not following the norm of the REST API, right?
Okay.
You
Okay.
can do in get operation also, but it will
Okay.
not. Let's say you are doing operation of creation in the get. So whenever they get normally, they can directly hit on the browser. So that is a get request. So whenever you do the get operation, they will create a new request, the new product in the system. So it is not
Okay.
following the actually REST API norms, right?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, fine.
Okay, thank you. So, right now we are using put method and we are passing data. So it's giving a method not allowed. So basically, it looks like that put method is not in class. So let's go and add that one. Okay, this is post. Similarly, we have so in this put method, what I'm doing, I'm again that parsing the data which is coming, I'm validating the data, and after the validation is performed, what I'm checking based on the product name which they are giving. If it is exist, then go for it. It means the product is already exist, and I'm just updating the record. If product is not exist, then I'm going for the insertion of the record. Now that condition line number 79, I'm put based on this only product name. I'm just checking that it's exist or not. So if we want to change the logic, you should change the logic here only that, okay, not only the product name, I want to check the existence or uniqueness with the other criteria as well. Okay. And then based on this, you can put the operations. So here, the same record we have already created. So let's see what is the response we are getting. So you can see that product is updated. It's not created because it's all this Sony TV 68 is already available. So that's why the record has been updated. Let me change or create a new one. Okay, and execute this one. So now you can see product is created. It's not updated. Okay, so in put operation we can perform both post and create and update both. Now, in some scenario, some clients ask, I don't want to go give the complete object to the update, right? So I just want to only update the product name based on the product ID. So in that case, we should not go with the put, we should go with the patch method. Patch, in normal terms, patching of the thing, right? So what I'm doing based on that, like as a request, I'm passing in the same object class. And after that, what I'm checking, whatever the product IDs they are giving, is it valid or not? If it is valid, then go with the what detail they are pushing. Right now, what I have done is see the line number 124. If they are passing product name, if they're passing, then record will be updated. If they are not passing product name, the record will not be updated. Okay. And similarly, not only product, if you want to update using the vendor ID, using the other unique column, you can, based on that, you can update the specific field. Okay, so let me show that sample. Okay, so what I'm passing the product ID, and whatever the product name was there, it will be replaced with Sony TV 41 inch. Okay. So the record is updated with this one. Whatever record is there, you want to see, let me see this record. Yeah, Sony TV 41 inch. Okay, so is it updated the product name of that particular product? Okay, now where is it? As the demo is complete, let me go with the presentation slide once again. Okay, so we are done with a demo. So when we create a REST API, what are the best practices we should follow when we create a REST API? So we should consider JSON as a request and response thing. Okay, other we should not, because JSON is a plain text, very easy to understand, and whenever it's no actually design or serialization is required in that context. So better is use JSON. Use nouns for the endpoint URL, like a product, order. We should use these kind of naming for that our endpoint URL. We should not use verb like a run, walk, sing. It's not actually good practice. Okay. Handle error gracefully and return standard error. So basically, when any kind of error is coming, let's say whatever the API you're giving is giving an Apex error, and the same error it will go to the client. They will not able to understand that what is that. So it is always good practice that you handle that particular Apex error, and whatever specific error message you want to show, like internal server error happened, or please contact with the system admin. That kind of error we should give to you or caller. Okay, with the specific standard code like 200, 300, 500. That kind of a code we should follow. Maintain good security practice. We should always use whatever the security guidelines available, like. In Apex, we should follow the profile security, other credentials and information, or we should authenticate first. And whatever by default, Salesforce has the capability that if the user is not able to, if is not access to that particular record, they will not able to get the access of that record. So by default, it's REST API, Apex REST API have that norm. But if you want to again forcefully you want to do, you can do. Like you want to validate the data first, okay, whatever the data that they are passing, that should be validated. So you actually, this is a part of security. You should cache your data to improve performance. Like there is some operation are there, like when you creating a Apex, before creating a product, you are checking that, okay, whatever the Apex product is there, whatever the new product is being created or inserted, that is already exist or not. So you have to get the data first. To getting a data, if we are getting for every request is not a good way. So better whatever product is available in existing, we will put that data in a cache, and we will every time we will use cache to validate the new request, new product creation. Versioning of APIs. Versioning of API is very important. Why? So today we have 100 of clients. They are accessing our API. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dani. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So 100 of clients are accessing your API, and 4 or 5 clients want, okay, whatever API is working, I want some extra in that API. So if for extra API, you will not going to hamper other 95 clients. So what you will do, you will create a new API for them, for the 4 or 5 client, you will expose those API to for the new endpoint that they want. So how you will do this? So in class, what I have written, on top I have written /v1/product. So by default, the version will be v1. When a new client want, okay, I need another version of this product API. So you create a new class, just put a v2 on the URL mapping. So now v1 is still working. There's no impact on that v1, and whatever 5 clients they need a new API, they will get v2.product. So they will access this API now. So that's why versioning is very important for new clients. API name is case
So Danik, if there's
sensitive.
a common,
Yeah.
if there's a common feature that needs to be published to the entire client base, how is that done? I mean, if I've made some change to the V2 version, which is I need to send it to across that feature to all the customers that I have or clients that are
So-
going to use it. So do I have to, how is that I communicate?
So by default, if it's for every user, so you don't need to change or not required to create a new V2. You can create in V1 itself because it's required for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you,
But
there
I'm
are only
adding a
4
new
or 5
feature to my,
Mhm.
sorry, but I'm adding a new feature to my existing API. So if I want to
existing
maintain it
REST
as a version,
API.
if I want to,
Mhm.
for
So
example,
first
in
I-
V1 I just had product,
Uh-huh.
and in V2 I've added price. For my reference, I want V2 to be created.
But is it required for every client?
Yeah, if there's some requirement which is required for every client, what is the best practice that is being currently followed, or what do you suggest?
I will go with the V1 itself. Why we will create a V2 when we don't require V2 only required when the specific client need. Okay, I want this also with that particular operations of the current entity API. So if it's for every client, then need is same. Like normally when we create a product, so product will be used for every client. Okay, not a specific client. So when they ask for a specific information for when then we create a new product for them and we only host or we only install to specific client. We don't install to other client where they don't need actually. I'm able to answer your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
API name is case sensitive. So if I'm putting in the class, I am putting as a product is small, you should or client should access with a small. If they are putting like a REST example is sorry, not one. V1 itself. Let's see the where is it? Let me see get and I invite using the sorry. Looks like I have deleted those classes. Only 1 minute. I have deleted that method, that's why it's not responding. So now it should return all the data, but what if I put P here, product or T here? So it's not responding with the data. Okay, so it's a case sensitive. So while doing the designing or the creating, you should take care of this as well. So this is, I think, from my end, it's complete. If you guys have any question,
Yeah, Danik, I
we
have
are
few
happy to answer.
questions. Can you
Sure.
please open the best practices slide?
Sure.